But what this podcast has taught me, and I think Sean Cannell said this, which we haven't released this episode yet, but it's punch fear in the face and press record. And that's what we've done week in and week out on this podcast. We have no clue for the most part what we're doing, but it hasn't stopped us from pressing record and going. And so if you're starting anything, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a business, whether it's a new family, you're not going to have it all figured out, and that's okay. Just jump in. You can figure it out along the way. We're chasing freedom in our lives. No, not a sleeveless Abraham Lincoln holding 2 machine guns as a bald eagle and fireworks flying to background freedom. We're after freedom of thought, expression, and perspective. Freedom from the rat race and financial stress. Freedom in how we spend our time. Freedom from fatigue and poor health. Freedom to explore and learn from others. Freedom to have open and honest discussions about difficult issues. Freedom to be better fathers and husbands, and freedom from ignorance. Along the journey of freedom, we fail often. We fail to live up to the standard we have set for ourselves. We fail in our roles as fathers, spouses, friends, and coworkers. Our podcast is designed to build a community of those who are seeking their freedom and know there will be struggles and victories along the way. Join us as we interact with high achievers from all walks of life and discuss topics we feel are relevant to the pursuit. By no means do we have it all figured out, but we're open and committed to learning along the path to freedom. And with that, what's going on, fellas?
We're just going to sit here and listen to you the rest of the way.
Just my voice just serenading you poetically.
Put us to sleep a second ago. Love that, man. And I know you spend a lot of time. We're not going to take any credit for that. You spend a lot of time, thinking about that. And I think it speaks directly to who we are as a show. So, proud of it.
I think, when we started this, we had an idea what we wanted to be, but I don't think anything describes what our mission is in starting this podcast better than what Ben just read.
Right.
It's about freedom. And like you said, it's not that stereotypical, patriotic freedom, which is incredible, and I'm not downplaying that, but freedom from the prison that we put ourselves in. The rat race, the endless chase of material possessions that we think are going to fulfill a gap. It's the freedom to love those that we want to love, how we want to love them, when we want to love them, and do the things that we love.
Yeah.
And that's our goal here, is to talk through those, give you guys resources, bring on guests that can speak to that.
Yeah.
Like Ben said, we're not experts.
Put a smile on my face. How big that is,
real.
Man.
This is real.
Just to smile.
Let's go.
So
we're a year old, man.
No, I know we're a year old.
If you're sitting there wondering what in the world is going on right now, we are 1 year. The podcast is a year old. We started this thing back in March of 2020. Pandemic had just hit. Or actually, it might have been our first episode, I think, released right before all the lockdowns went on.
Yeah.
And I just think back to the last year where we were, literally in Darren's upstairs.
And you better not say anything bad about the house. I'll tell Tiffany's listening.
No, the house was great, and the hosts were amazing. But it's not the ideal place to host a podcast.
You had the landscapers out in the back. You had everything going to kids
and
screaming.
Remember, the first couple of times to start, we had to go to Tyler's house up in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And his 4 kids are running in and out.
Banging on the door.
Banging on the doors.
No,
I mean,
man.
It was...
How many COVID rules did you guys break?
All of them.
Every
If there was a
last
single
one.
COVID rule, we broke it.
for sure.
They said physically distance and mask up and don't leave your house for 2 weeks. And we did none of that.
Well, and it was like, even when Darren got it, you and I went to the house together, sitting next to each other.
Honestly, when I heard Darren got it, I was like, wait, so how many days is that going to delay our next recording?
Yeah. Man, how are you doing?
Man,
are you going to be okay?
Get over it. I know you're at risk with your age, but I don't care. But seriously, I mean, just to think back.
Now, have you ever thought about this, though? How many businesses start like in the heart of COVID? Or started in the heart of COVID? We will never forget how this podcast came about, based on the fact that this podcast started in the heart of COVID.
Yeah.
And it was hard to get around. Everything was shut down. We were just winging it. It was a startup for us. We're just winging it.
Newsflash, we're still winging it.
I think we're past that point. I think we're getting past that point. But it was a trying time because we had to balance. We were balancing work, family, the unknowns, the uncertainties, the financial situations. But figured out a way to be consistent, man. And that's I'm proud of that, man.
Yeah.
Really am.
Yeah, I'll say a worldwide pandemic is not exactly the best time to be starting an added thing to your schedule that you're not getting paid for.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the right time to add something else to your plate. So if somebody's just stumbling, last couple weeks, months, whatever, just now stumbling upon the podcast, they've heard a couple of interviews, a couple of roundtables, they kind of get it. Tyler, what is our podcast? We read a little bit about it, but what is our podcast about? Why did we want to start this thing? Tell the new listeners the story about how this all went down.
Yeah, little history is a little over, I guess, a year and 3 or 4 months ago. The three of us, we all work together. We're all really good buddies. Just realized that, yes, we love our job, our day job, and doing that, but there was just something missing, the conversation piece. And each of us were living individually, and especially as a male in their 30s or 60s, in Darren's case, what happens is you become
the old jokes will never get old.
Never.
They're done. See, and I'm not sensitive to them.
The challenge. I'm just gonna keep breezing through. There's a skill in delivering jokes. You just subtly just let them keep going. But men especially, and women are so much better at this than men. But you tend to lose community. You tend to lose those people that you can have conversations with. And the three of us were individually going through things personally, whether it's a transition or growing your business or growing your family. All of us were in very similar stages, but in different places. And we just recognized that, hey man, like the conversations we have at lunch when we walk out of our office and talk, like these are things that like I think people can relate with. And we can have those. And with the relationships of all three of us in the community, we can bring on people that people can relate with and give advice, or, hey, they went through this. And so we came together, and obviously Darren's got so much on his plate. So Ben and I, we just had a conversation like, could we do something with this? Ben is a big podcast guy and listen to a bunch. I was sparingly here and there, didn't really understand it. But Ben was like, dude, I really think that we could sit down and we could have these conversations that really could add value to people. And yes, like we're chasing this business from a monetary standpoint and a success for our family, but really like our purpose, like, are we making an impact in lives? And I think that this is an avenue in getting a podcast. And really our first conversation is like, dude, like we're sitting in front of a campfire, like having just real conversations about life. And that was kind of the genesis, and we kept kind of just spitballing it around a little bit, and then we brought it to Darren, and I think our first expectation was Darren was like, hell no, like not another thing. I just got out of media for exactly this. I don't want to put it back on, But as we and Ben really kind of mapped it out, and that's what, Ben has been such a huge value to this podcast. And it's like, okay, look, yeah, we can talk about it. And I'm an idea guy, right? I just love talking about stuff. Whereas Ben's like, okay, no, like here's the outline. Here's what it can look like. Here's what we can actually accomplish. These are the tangible benefits that we can actually see from this. And then not to mention like, hey, this could be a really just cool project, like overall. And Darren was like slowly came on board. And I think even reluctantly did the first couple episodes. And it was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. This was pre-COVID, and we were doing them down in the Cowboys podcast studio. And then you could just see something click with Darren. There was a point, like episode 2, 3, or 4, where he was just like, I get it. Like, I finally get it. And since then, we've been molding, crafting, adjusting, like you said, winging it here and there. But ultimately, like you said, creating a platform that encourages freedom, but really it just encourages people. Life is difficult, no matter what background you come from, whether you come from a highly successful upper middle class family, or you come from the streets in South Central LA. Like, life is really hard and it's different. Everybody deals with things differently. We want to be a platform that encourages you to push through, that you are worth success. However little you think of yourself, however little you think you're capable of, we want to tell you, no, you're wrong. You can accomplish anything that you want. And listen to these people that we've had. Andy Frisella living on a mattress for $10,000 over a 6-year period. I mean, like, you can do it. It does take work, but also we want to maybe lay some stepping stones out for you to follow. Like, very simple, applicable resources for you.
One of the things that when I really started to, really was encouraged and wanted to do this podcast is when I started hearing stories. Because you get caught up in your own stories and you always think, oh shit, I had it the hardest. My God, I did this and I have to do that. And people are pulling on me and blah, blah. And then you start to hear some real stories of people in their lives and the things that they've had to overcome. And for me, it's always been about resilience. It's how I've seen people go through problems and get knocked on their ass and they find a way to get up. Like, the human spirit and the human fight is tremendous. And, people do give up sometimes, but then you see these stories, and it doesn't have to be just men. It's men, women, it's all the way across the board, that they get up from whatever devastation they've had or whatever outcome that's taken place, whether it be a good win or a loss or whatnot, and they bounce back. And that's the part of the show and the part of hearing these guests speak that I really like. And to me, it's been therapeutic. Yeah, it really has.
So initially, Darren, Tyler touched on, he and I got together and kind of had this great plan, but ultimately it wasn't going anywhere without you.
Yeah.
So when we approached you, what was your first thoughts?
Hell to the no, like Tyler said, because I had just, retired from ESPN. I was beat down and more than anybody, I think Tyler probably heard me talk about ESPN more than anything, as far as, getting on a plane, and I'm complaining and he's like, yeah, okay, whatever, go on about your business. But, for 14 years, that's what I did. I got on a plane every week, flew up to Hartford, Connecticut, drove 30 minutes to Bristol and did TV. And when I was retiring, I just felt like I needed to get away from the media and start my life, specifically in the business world. And, going through this, man, it was, of course I didn't want to get back, back into that. And I was still getting pulled from different organizations to come back into TV. And I just didn't want to do it. But then, when you guys came to me the first time, I think it was you, Ben, who came to me the first time, brought it to my attention. I was like, okay, whatever. Walked off like, yeah, that'll work. Sure. And then as you guys came back and we started talking and we had these little small meetings, I was like, all right, let's try it. So we go downstairs. The first show was it was about me on the first show.
I was going to say, I don't know why you didn't like the first 2 episodes. They're about your favorite subject.
No, but myself,
yourself,
me. So we go downstairs and we do the first one, and it was like, the weight of the world fell off my shoulders, man. Because I finally, I've never told my story. No one's ever, it's never been, no one's ever asked me to tell my story. And it was like, I'm an hour and a half, 2 hours into this thing. Yeah. And I felt like we were just talking for 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. So that was refreshing. And then we hear Tyler came in and then Tyler did his story and I got it. It's like, it started to click. Mm-hmm. It did. It started to be like, okay, this is different. We're not scripted. I'm with two guys I don't like really, but I do kind of.
Leave the jokes up to us, Darren.
But I didn't mind that part of it. I didn't mind the part of because at ESPN it was so scripted that you had to follow these guidelines. With the podcast, it was like just tell your story and just have a good time doing it.
And that's the one thing I think to me made me most excited as we got going is we made a promise to each other to be authentic and to be real. Because like you said, like on ESPN, it's so scripted and it's like, okay, I've got to be this person. I got to be this character on TV. I've got to be the know-it-all. I got to, give this commentary. I got to do this. Where like here, it's like, nah, dude, like let's strip it down. Let's be real. Let's be vulnerable because that's what I want from people that I look up to. Like, I want you to be able to share that because guess what? I'll learn more from that than you telling me, okay, A, B, C, D, this is how you do it, be successful, this is how you're going to do it, okay, go do it. Yeah. No, like I want to learn from like the raw places. Like I want to learn from the places where you struggled the most because that's the value because, okay, you're there. How did you pick yourself up out of that? Mm-hmm. How did you handle that adversity? How did you handle the success? Yeah. But like the transparency, because anybody that you hear that is this, internet, like motivational guy that doesn't talk about the times that he really struggled or the downfalls, to me is full of crap.
Yeah, true.
Because there's nothing authentic and real about that.
He called the shit crap. Name that movie, Tyler, go.
I'm usually good at this.
Billy Madison. Oh, you're out. Sorry, you were rolling, man. Darren threw me off. Did you not hear what he said?
No, I missed it.
That's another thing.
You said full of crap, and Darren goes, crap. He wanted you to say shit.
Just say it. You know what? One of the shows, and I know I don't want to go off script, but I am.
There's no script.
Hey, your name's on it, bro. Do what you want.
One of the shows that really... or one of the times that really got me and just had me hooked as far as the podcast is when Jake Schick came on and started telling his story about when he was in his car in the Jeep when they were in Iraq, hit an IED, and the
That's episode 3, by the way. Episode 3.
Explosion he goes through the roof of the car, and he's in the air, and he says, I'm coming back down, and his words were, this is not going to be good. And that's when I was like, holy shit, we're doing this show.
We're on to something.
We are on to something. But go back and listen to that episode.
That was still one of my favorite episodes.
For sure.
It was literally like watching a movie.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to say is, Darren, I don't know if you remember this, but that was episode 3. That was our... Other than you, we'd never done this before.
Right.
That was our second time to ever record a story. Mm-hmm. It was episode 3. But I remember it was in the evening. I don't know if you remember this. Your wife's blowing up your phone because you're late to some sort of dinner. I mean, we got lost in the discussion with Jake and literally just lost track of time. And because we were so into it. And so, we talked about freedom from a lot of different things. Gave a whole list there. To me, the freedom from the rat race is the part that sticks for me personally. And what I mean by that, and Tyler, you touched on this a second ago, we get so locked into our routine. You wake up in the morning, you get dressed, you go to work, you come home, you watch some TV, you go to sleep, you do it all over again. If you have kids, there's some different routine in there. But that's what I was missing personally. I'm still fairly young-ish, so I'm not that far removed from a college lifestyle of I see my best friends every single day, and we do anything we want all day long. And now I'm in the corporate world, and I don't see those guys anymore. I don't talk to anybody other than my family, which is great. It's fine, but there's things that you feel more comfortable sharing with your bros. And so for me, it was a freedom from the rat race in that regard of We get to spend however many hours a week together, totally uninterrupted. Phones are away for the most part, and we just talk.
Right.
And when's the last time you can honestly say that you've done that?
That's true.
And so that to me is the special part. And hopefully the people that plug in their headphones and they listen to us, and we've referenced this before, no, you can't join our conversation, unfortunately, but hopefully it feels like you're a part of it.
Yeah. And the other thing too, and the great thing about just the podcast platform, right, and not being this big, media production, and is grassrooting it, is the guests that we have, the stories that we have. It's not always super polished. It's not always the best speakers. It's not always, the best communicators. But guess what? You get into the story, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's what I love, is because there's so many people that would not normally be able to share the story. You talk about Whoop.
Yeah.
Dang it.
But I mean, when we started, that was an episode that we literally were like anticipating. Okay, we're going to talk about Whoop Strap and like what's going on with that, and how it benefits, and it's a great product, and you're growing. You're getting, this was during COVID, so you're getting it on the NFL players,
right.
and you can see the respiratory rate, whatever. Well, then we get into the story.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen Holmes.
Kristen,
yes.
I apologize.
Sorry, Kristen.
Sorry, gosh. So literally we get into the story, and I'm like, what were we thinking?
Her background, because we were,
and she, right? She's like the VP of innovation or something like that, right? So she's got a position.
Yeah.
Like she normally would not share necessarily her story. And I mean, she's like a head coach of multiple lacrosse teams, like world champion, All American. I mean, like unbelievable, like blow your mind. And like I said, it's not someone that's normally, I mean, and this will release here shortly, is, we just had a Major League Baseball player on who went through a very traumatic episode last year, a very traumatic event. And he's not a speaker,
right?
But like, we're having this conversation, and it was raw and it was real. It brought tears. Like it was, and that's what I love, is like, we're uncovering stories that people may not have ever having the chance to give in. And I'm not saying that's us doing it. I'm just saying, like, man, I love the premise of this show, the heart behind it, whether it's Ben, Darren, myself, or Whitney, or Elizabeth, or whoever, DJ, whoever's behind it. It's like, look, we want to just pull out realness. We want to pull out authenticity and people that just want to share their story, because if it reaches one person, that show was worth it.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know what, for me, it's having my buddies who I didn't talk to, like you just said, Ben, you hadn't talked to a lot of your friends in a long time, but having your buddies tune in and them call you or text you and say, hey man, Ben is out of his damn mind for wanting to pick up napkins in the back. I mean, like these conversations, my phone is blowing up from those that are tuning in, or just walking around sometimes, and people don't, they're not recognizing me as or talking about football. They're talking about the podcast.
No, Darren, you're going to think twice next time you let Ben feed grapes to you out of your mouth. That filthy hands he just picked up piss paper in the bathroom.
Tyler, you touched on a couple. Darren, as you look back, and obviously we love every one of our guests equally.
Yeah.
They're like our children.
Yeah.
But when you think back, who were some of your favorite guests looking back?
I'm looking at I had to look down at my list. James Lawrence.
Yeah. Follow now.
Follow him now.
Iron Cowboy. Holy
Cowboy.
smokes.
Yeah. Because of the will and the want to. And you can't tell me if you could that people can't control their mind. Like that is mind control all the way, as far as putting his body through the trauma. And that's what 50 Ironmen in
50 days in 50 states.
And he's doing 100 and 100 right now.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. Amazing. That to me was, again, I always look from within of all the hard things that I had to go through. I don't even come close. And and for him to say it wasn't about the physical, it was all the mental. Mm-hmm. Guy broke his shoulder. He did something to his shoulder in his second day or something. His second Ironman, and he had knee issues and his feet were blistering and whatnot. And he just had this mental energy to continue through that process. So that's one that really stands out for me.
Yeah.
What about
so
you, Tyler?
For me, so I've got a couple, but I don't know, man. I like Matt Frazier's was great.
Yeah.
That was just because that was one of the first ones we got to do in person. And so I think us three as communicators, we just do so much better in person. The Zoom has been a cool resource to reach people that we normally wouldn't have. But I mean, Michael Irvin's was hilarious,
Yeah, that was
right?
Yeah, my only regret on that one is if we could have done that in person.
I agree.
Because that would have been. We'll have him on again.
But to me, I mean, Ryan Casey Waller, was surprisingly impactful to me. And just, again, his rawness and realness and his struggles that he went through in his life. And he's a counselor now, right? He's someone that is counseling people and pulling things out. But he's like, look, I'm going to put it out there. Right. And then just the stuff that he came back with, like, is like, dude, blew your mind. But all-time favorite still, because it's already made such an impact in my life, is Nir Eyal.
Yeah. Nir was strong.
Like, just from an impact standpoint. Yeah. I walked away from that episode. I downloaded the book. First book I've finished, start to finish. It's like 6th grade since the last Goosebumps book I read.
I was about to say, since where a red fern, or where the red fern grows.
But man,
that was episode 96 Tyler's referring to.
Yeah, it was. He wrote a book called Undistractable. Indistractable, and it was enlightening. It was challenging. It was humbling.
I mean, why? Because we were going through it at that time as far as the distraction. And he spoke directly to us.
Yeah.
It was like we were our mouths were open, like, oh shit.
It was that like you're at church and the pastor's preaching a sermon, and I'm like, he knew what I did last night. I mean, he's talking to me.
So he was strong, man. Yeah. I learned so much. And I've always been taught, like, you just don't take everything. You always take the nuggets that really apply to you, and then you figure out how you can apply them to your life. And you can apply so much of what Nir was talking about. Ryan Moran was another one. And I don't know if you were here.
That's what I was going to say, Ryan. Yep.
But, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm not a young entrepreneur. I'm an old entrepreneur, but I've always had that entrepreneur spirit. And Ryan Moran came on, man, and just talk to us about just getting started. Yeah. Like, take a step. Yeah. If there's something you firmly believe in, take a step. And his story went along as where he went to school at it was a Christian school. School. So he was going up to he felt like he was going to be a pastor. That was the goal. And a teacher told him hey, look, this is hard. Being a pastor is hard. Mm-hmm. And if there's something else that you might want to do, take a firm look at it, take a hard look at it. And that's when it happened to him to think, okay, well, there's other things out there that I want to do. And he took a step. Yeah. And that was, to me, that was huge. And right now you listen to Ryan Moran, and I follow him daily, man, and he's just spitting fire right now.
If you're an entrepreneur, you have to follow Ryan Moran. He is an unbelievable resource. He's got a great YouTube channel, great Instagram. You guys listed quite a few, and again, I could list probably 10, that were just impactful. I think of the people that you've never heard of. Zach Hughes was one that I think of. Kurt Steinhorst, Rocky Garza were awesome. Yes. I'm fascinated by people. Yeah. And so, obviously the Navy SEALs and the former athletes, those are cool stories, but people you've never heard of that are experts in their field, I really enjoy. And then, like I said, I was going to say Ryan. But I'll tell you this, and it hasn't released yet. It's going to release this next Sunday. The one we recorded with Drew Robinson. And
that's all right, man. That's how it was during the show, too. It's rough. That was a hard one. Yeah. Well, Drew Robinson and Tyler, I want you to take this one. But Drew Robinson, we just did this interview this week, and it's not coming out just yet. But it was an event took place, and I don't want to give up a lot, but an event took place, and we basically celebrated his life yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, just the other day.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm good. And it's emotional just sitting here thinking about it. And the reason it's emotional for me, and I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to give it too much away because you're going to be blown away about the story. But when he was talking about being alone.
Yeah.
It's one of those episodes that I know personally for me, I thought 95 of those same thoughts that he had, that he went through his life.
Mm-hmm.
And it hit so close to home for me because I was talking to a young man, and I say young man just because he's younger, but same idea of himself, same identity, same track record. His parents' background was a little different than mine, but I mean, all these same things, and I struggled with, and I still struggle with that in business.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, I thought those things when I played sports, but guess what? I still think those things in business.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the realness of it, the rawness of it, and his willingness to share.
Yes. Yeah. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And he didn't miss a beat, brother.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me finish my thought. Because I was thinking about this on my drive home as a father, and just and again, the pain he must have been going through.
Yeah.
And he was all alone. And that just tore me up, man.
Yeah.
To know there's a father out there whose son is in that much pain. And I was just thinking about him, stumbling around his apartment. He was all alone.
Yeah.
And in so much pain. And there was nobody that could do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knew anything about it. And that's what hit me so hard, was just, as a father, just thinking about my own sons.
Yeah.
But think about that. And again, you got to listen to the episode when it comes out, and we'll keep you updated on that. But if nothing else, if none of the listeners, if none of you even go listen to that, the impact that that episode had on us three is it will change lives. And here's the thing, and if you're listening and like it was emotional and it was raw, but guess what? It was full of hope.
Yes.
I wrapped that thing up, and it was full of hope, and it was light, and the strength that he had, and the decisions that he made at the very last second were hope filled. And for me, and this is, and again, I'm speaking for myself, is that I can't come from anywhere but God.
Yeah.
And
speaking for all of us, bro.
I don't know Drew's faith journey, and I don't know where that is, but man, to me, just to have that freedom that you're talking about, to know that the strength comes from beyond ourselves. We don't have to do it all ourselves.
Right.
And we're not designed to do it alone.
He's a messenger, man.
That's right.
He firmly is a messenger. Yeah. And there were so many people that, hey, look, it's, I don't want to get too deep into it, but, I just want, when the show comes out,
this
just
Sunday.
tune into it this Sunday, because it's life-changing. And if you have kids, or, you're a mother or a father, it'll change your life.
Yeah.
And you'll be hugging those babies at the end of the day. So
yeah. Sorry, I'm not a crier, and it's just emotional. So on a lighter note, what have been some of y'all's favorite topics? Because the way we've structured this podcast, I think was unintentional at first. Honestly, I don't know if we really intended to do this. Because to me, thinking about it was, have guests. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But what we've grown to love is these roundtable episodes that we can just sit here and talk and just throw ideas out there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was just going to be guests, right? And that was going to be kind of the format of the shows. We'd have guests in. Well, then like was like, well, let's talk about this and let's get somebody. We couldn't figure out who to get on to talk about it. We're like, let's just talk about it, right? Like we just didn't have a guest to fill in that day, and it was like the most. Like it was such a like light bulb moment for us when we were like, okay. And I talked to like family members. They're like, the guest shows are amazing. They're great. But my favorites are the roundtable when it's just the three of you talking about these topics. You don't claim to be experts, but you have very clear, thought out like responses to these topics.
Because we're living this shit out. Well, we are absolutely living it out.
Yeah.
And that's why I like the round tables as well, because we just go, it's a banter. We go back and forth, and it feels like we have drinks in our hands, which we need to get one at one of these at some point. But that's what it feels like. It's like we're at the bar and having these deep conversations, but these are the same conversations that we have with our buddies all the time.
That's right. So favorite topics.
All to say, do y'all ever look back and think like on some of the episodes, you think like, dang it, I should have said this.
Yes.
Everyone.
Maybe if we were a little more
everyone. No, that's real, right? Is we're having very just like in the now conversations. This is we're pouring out what we really truly feel. Well, there's a couple that I like, and I'll mention two. Is one, I love the bad leadership one, because that's something that
we got a lot of response off of that one.
Yeah, it was just like, look, that's something that we all like point the finger at someone else, that it's everyone else's fault why I'm not doing well, because they're bad leaders. But like, I mean, let's take an introverted like look into ourselves. Like, really, who's to blame? But if there is bad leadership, what are you doing about it?
Right.
You know, I love that episode. And then the I want it now. You know, that was the most real for all of us, well, at least Ben and I. Is it's like, no, like I want to, like, I'll work my tail off, but I want it now.
Right.
And that was a very real conversation as well.
I don't have time was one that really got me. Yeah. Because this is a battle that Ben and I always have, because I'm always telling him, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time. His response it chapped my ass when he said it the first time. I was ready to fight, man. He said, well, wake up earlier. And I was like, fuck you. I don't wake up earlier. I'm getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But that's what a friend says to you. Yeah. Well, stop complaining about you don't have time. Make time. Yeah. And that one was a really good, the episode was good, but it was more so how I thought about it moving forward. When I left, it stuck to me. Yeah. Because I knew that I need to stop complaining, and I need to figure it out. And waking up earlier, well, that's a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, let's just make sure we touch on that. That is part of it. Waking up earlier, creating more time to be awake is great. Yeah, that's
but for
one
me
method.
Specifically, and I'm not talking for everyone else. I'm talking specifically for myself. Was waking up earlier is something that absolutely benefited me.
Right.
Because it gave me that time. It gave me that moment in the morning where I could spend by myself, write things down, plan out my day. I mean, that's the time that worked for me. So I'm speaking directly for self.
Yeah, and another element of that is, well, maybe you don't wake up earlier, but just be more efficient with your time. Because we talked about this then. You always make time for things that are important to you.
Right.
You're going to find time for it, regardless of what it is. If it's that important to you, you're going to find time for it. So that ties in the Nears episode of being more efficient with your time. Right. So maybe you don't wake up earlier, but you're just more scheduled. You're more efficient. But what Tyler said, he stole mine from me, is I want it now. Mm-hmm. And I think at the time, if I remember right, Darren, I don't know if you were on the same wavelength as we were. The thought process, I think there was some confusion of what the point was. The point we were making is we have a goal, and instead of settling in and knowing, hey, this is just going to take some time. That's just, we're going to work daily for this goal, but it just takes time sometimes. Mm-hmm. Instead of having that mentality and being okay with the time it takes, we're just constantly saying, I want it now, I need it now. Mm-hmm. And when it doesn't happen, now you quit. Or it doesn't happen, now you change course. Mm-hmm. And so the whole spirit of that episode was just having patience in a process, which is a perfect transition to my next question for you guys, which is, if somebody's planning on starting something, you know, in our context, it's the podcast, but what advice do you have for those who are looking to start something? Anything, a new business, a new job, a family, whatever it is, give us some general advice for those looking to start something.
I think we're all going to say for sure the same thing, right? I think we all have a general consensus of start.
Right.
Just start. That's that. And I think we can all speak to that a little bit.
Right.
But for me is take some time to meditate on what it is you want to start and understand why you want to start it, what your goals are on the other side of it, because those have to be big enough to motivate you through the tough times and to push you through the challenging times. If you just like, and I think of this all the time, and I have ADD, especially with like business opportunities, and there's this investment, or you could do this, or I want to do that, or this looks good, this looks good. But you know what? None of them have I really sat down and said, why am I doing this? What do I want to accomplish? And what's the reason for accomplishing those goals? Like, who in my life am I doing this for? And included in that who, it's got to be yourself, and then it's got to be those that are important to you, whether it's your immediate family or significant other, whatever it is. But if you don't have those things in line, it's really hard to start and sustain something, because I mean, I know some people are driven by money, but here's the reality is, you know, money is fleeting, and it's going to go away. And there's going to be other opportunities that pull you away. Oh, this one's a little bit better. Oh, this one's better. But the core essence of why you're doing it needs to be established, and it needs to be written down and seen every day so that you understand why you're doing it and why you're struggling through it.
It needs to be a passion. It has to be your passion, because you're going to get your teeth kicked in. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to have to get back up. You're going to have to fight through some situations. You're going to be, if you have a passion and a love, and I'm speaking to this because I have a son my son DJ just found his studio yesterday. It was his first day.
Nice.
Right? But it's been a passion of his to get here for a year and a half.
Well,
he hadn't slept. He's up all night long. He's doing whatever it takes. He's researching. He's reaching out to people. If you are someone that wants to start a business or family or something, be in love, be passionate about it. And then I would say this: find like-minded people and surround yourself with like-minded people that are smarter than you.
Yep.
Because there is no way in hell that you're going to be able to do everything by yourself, nor are you going to be able to just individually accomplish things without having some accountability around you. I think the one thing about this podcast, and the reason why I ended up saying, yeah, I see it, I understand, now I can see the path forward, is because I've surrounded myself with people that pick up my weaknesses. Right? So this is the selfish side of me, and I've told you guys this before in the past. Well, I know Ben is going to do one thing. He's going to be relentless as far as organization, task, get things done. We're going to get things done with Ben.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what do I want to do? I attach myself to Ben. Okay, I'm weak at that. Here's Ben's strengths. Okay, here's Tyler. Tyler can get on the freaking mic and open up anything and close it.
Yes.
I don't want to do that. I can't do that. So why wouldn't I bring in or attach myself to Tyler to say, okay, well, Tyler's going to do this. Here are his strengths. And then I can just do what I do best, which is nothing. But
that's in the middle and look pretty.
But as a business
hey, this is
owner,
the moment, Ben, where we need to actually pick him up and lift him up.
Yeah.
But as a business owner, man, and I'm a
Darren.
business owner. I've owned, I have a software company and I'm a partner in another firm. But as an business owner, that's how you have to approach it. You have to have humility in the fact that you're not going to know everything and you're not going to be good at everything, but surround yourself with people that are like-minded and are smarter than you.
Yeah, I'll touch on mine, but I want to touch on something that you just talked about, talking about the passion aspect. And I might be naive in this, Darren. You have a lot more experience than I do. So just let me live in my naivete for a minute.
Naivete.
That was a good word.
Is that like a French word?
I'm going to grow a mustache. Yeah. But the passion aspect, for me personally, when I'm chasing something that I'm very passionate about and that I love, it doesn't feel like work. And we talked about this with Ryan Moran, but you talked about DJ. He's up all night. He's up early. He's constantly. I bet you $1 million. I don't even have $1 million, but I bet you $1 million if you asked him, does it feel like you're working hard?
That's right.
He's going to say no.
Yep.
I love this. Having said that, it doesn't mean just because you're chasing something you're passionate about, you're not going to have hard times. There's going to be difficulty. It's still going to suck every now and then. But I promise if it's something you're chasing that you're really, really passionate about, it's not going to feel like work. You're not going to get to the end of the day and think, thank God I'm done with that. You're going to be like, man, it's already 11. I wish I had more hours in the day. So that's the passion piece that you just spoke on. I love that. For me, the biggest thing this year that's taught me is you're not going to have all the answers. Just go. Yeah. And that is so anti my personality. My personality is one that I want to research. I want to read. I want to learn. I want to know everything first, and then I'll jump in. It's like the dipping your toe into the deep end analogy. But what this podcast has taught me, and I think Sean Cannell said this, which we haven't released this episode yet, but it's punch fear in the face and press record. And that's what we've done week in and week out on this podcast. We have no clue for the most part what we're doing, but it hasn't stopped us from pressing record and going. And so if you're starting anything, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a business, whether it's a new family, you're not going to have it all figured out, and that's okay. Just jump in. You can figure it out along the way. And with that, our final kind of section here, as we look to the future, what do you guys foresee with the podcast going forward? Maybe what advice specifically, if somebody's listening to this and they do want to start their own podcast?
Save yourself.
Don't do it. You're our competition. Just kidding. What advice do you have for those? And then where do you all see this going in the future?
I mean, advice, like Darren said, surround yourself with people, like-minded people. I think it's really hard to accomplish anything by yourself, as you mentioned, but it's just a lonely place, right? Like for us to be able to celebrate together when we get good news about an episode or we booked somebody that we're really excited about, like that to me is really the life-giving aspect of this podcast is that we get to do it all together. As far as where I see this going, man, honestly, like I know we have really big aspirations, and I don't want to like undercut like our goals, but like, man, I want to continue just having conversations. Right. Like I want to continue these types of discussions that we can just put it out there, be real, be raw, bring on really, really cool stories that people. Because I mean, just the people that I've talked to and connected with following the episodes. I mean, it's so awesome and it's so fun and whatever success that the show has in the future, whatever. Honestly, because the show's already given me more than I could ever get out of it. But with that being said, I would love to get out more. I would love to do things in front of people, with people, interact with people. Just because I think that would just be a very cool opportunity to get out and have discussions with people that maybe have listened in the past and talk to them physically about, hey, when you had so-and-so on, man, that really just hit home and it made an impact. Like that's the stuff that I'm really looking forward to getting out and mingling.
The future. What does the future look like?
Your name's on the show, man.
Yeah, I know.
Tyler and I can walk away at any point.
The future also looks like we'll have a sign right here.
Yeah.
At some point.
For me, it's just, I've mentioned before, it's just chopping wood, man. I mean, this is not work. This is not work. This is fun, what we're doing, but we're building something here. And for, looking at where we started and how we started, the main focus has been consistency. Yeah. Like we're giving you week in and week out, we're giving you content to all the listeners out there. I mean, this is what we do. We're not going away. To all the sponsors out there, we'll be around. We're not going anywhere. And this is not a fly. Our mindset has never been, okay, we'll do this for a year. We'll do this for 2 years. No, this is what we're going to do. This is a part of our DNA. And that's the part of it that when I look at this show, it's us three continuing to build, continuing to grow, continuing to bring on great guests, continue to have great topics that our listeners want us to talk about. But and like Tyler said, look, I want the interaction as well with those that are out there, because those that are listening to the show, they probably have so many more topics that we haven't even touched on.
Hit us up on Instagram if you do.
Yeah, exactly. So I just want to continue to grow, man, and just be a resource for those that are going through some things, or those that just want to just tune in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. On the one hand, I think it's only been a year.
Yeah.
I mean, we're babies in this thing, and then other times I think, God, I feel like we've been doing this forever.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. Can't believe it's only been a year. So it is funny how just looking back again, and you're upstairs sitting at a fold-out table with a bed sheet over the top with kid markers all over it, like doing Zoom not even Zoom at the time, FaceTime interviews.
Yeah.
Audio is horrible. Like, sorry,
I think that was my input. I think someone told me to do that. So I was like, this is the best way to do it.
I'm going to take full blame. At the time, I remember thinking FaceTime sounded better than Zoom.
Yeah.
Because that was in the early days of Zoom before they worked out the kinks. And honestly, we apologize for those early episodes. For those
great
Don't apologize. Don't apologize.
Great content. Yeah. Suspect quality.
Yes. But I mean, just thinking back and just how much that's what it, like those times you look back, and we talked about this before, like you're gonna look back and smile on those difficult times.
That's right.
And that's what I think
and think about how much we learned.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about I want it now. Imagine if we had a podcast that in month 2, we were getting 25, 30,000, 50,000 downloads an episode. It's like, this is easy.
Yeah.
It's been a grind reaching people.
Yeah.
But our goal was to organically grow this thing. We're not spending money on marketing. We're not putting it out there. It's like, look, we just want to create content that people want to share.
Right.
And since then, it's been really fun to watch the growth. We're not done. Right. We have a lot more people to connect with, but man, imagine though, had we not gone through this year, and we still showed up every day. Yes, schedules, and mostly me, like schedules were challenging.
And that's
right?
the thing, man.
But like we were here through all that.
All everyone really sees is the finished product.
Yeah.
The show releases or what. But they don't see that, Ben is going through all the scheduling. The fact that, I honestly don't think we make it if we were just doing the show in the Cowboys.
No way.
Studio, because we had it easy.
It would have been way too
Walked
easy.
downstairs, did this. We weren't going through anything rough.
Yeah.
COVID put us through.
Yeah.
So and we figured out who we were through COVID. So look,
and now we're sitting here in a brand new studio.
Exactly.
I mean, look at it. I mean, again, we're not done, but just thinking back where we started to now.
Talk about so what we got coming, like actual physically what we are going to add to our offering.
Exciting announcement here in just a second. What I foresee is kind of what you guys touched on. I foresee, and I'm putting this out there as accountability, because when I say this, we got to do it now. I think about merchandise. Number one, we got to find a damn logo.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're a logo maker out there, send us your ideas. We've got to get a logo for the show.
All the marketing design guys are like, logo maker? What's that?
Forgive my verbiage. But we've got a black wall sitting there, and I guarantee it's going to sit there for another few months unless one of us steps up and takes leadership and ownership and says, we got to get a logo. Yeah. So that's our first thing is get a logo.
Yep.
To me, that eventually leads into merchandise. People have already been asking about it. Shirts, hats, things like that, hoodies, right? These are the things we want to do to be able to fly our flag, so to speak. I also think about live events. That's another thing COVID robbed from us was we had big plans for the football season. Yeah. We did those watch parties. That's fine. But our plans were to go out to live tailgates and be with you guys and hang out. So hopefully this next season we'll be able to do that sort of thing. And maybe something potentially in the works.
Yeah, some big things.
A little further north.
Big things going.
Yeah, we won't reveal that yet, but virtual events as well, IG, things like that. Yeah. And this next one, I didn't run this by you guys. I'm going to say it. I'm a little nervous.
Hey, do we need to wait a minute?
I'm really nervous if you're nervous.
Hey,
but again, I'm throwing this out there.
Wait a minute now.
I'm putting this into existence.
You gotta push that mic away from your mouth and tell me what the hell you're about to say.
I'm putting this into what's the phrase? Speaking into existence.
Yeah.
We talked about before. This is a human performance podcast. If you want to just sum it up to its root level, we're hopefully giving. And guests are giving things that you can perform better. And part of that, I think about, so mental performance, what goes into mental performance? We always talk about writing things down. I would love it if we could have a Darren Woodson Show journal, a daily reading for people, something they could write things down. Our producer over there is giving me the thumbs up right now. These two are getting red and scared. I'm putting that out there.
I'm in.
I foresee, and again, call me crazy, I foresee a supplement line down the line. I foresee what avenues can we explore to optimize performance? And not athletic performance. I'm not talking about can you go run 18 miles. I'm talking about can you show up day in and day out?
Yeah.
Can you be the person you were designed to be? Whatever it is you're going after, whether you're a plumber or you're a CEO. That's who we want to reach. And the things that we can provide, that's what we're after. And again, this is way down the line. The step number one is just making this podcast as great as we can.
That's right.
That's step number one. But I'm a dreamer. I'm a visionary. I'm not a realist sometimes. This is what I think about. But to Tyler's announcement, something a little more tangible and definitely going to happen is in celebration of our anniversary, our 1-year anniversary. You guys are listening to this on a Wednesday. This coming Friday, we're going to start a third episode of the week. And we're going to call it Feel Good Friday. And so all three of us, we've talked about before, this is our football background. Feel Good Friday referenced in the football world. It was your last practice of the week. It was kind of a tune-up deal. You've put in the hard work throughout the week. The Friday practice is more of a walkthrough. It's more mental. It's just a quick, we're in and out, going. And so we're always looking for ways that we can bring you guys more content. And that's what Feel Good Friday is. 3 to 5 minutes, literally. That's all it is. And it's more than likely going to be Darren just giving you a quick thought that you can end your week out on.
And one thing to note on that is Friday's not the day to relax. Yeah. Friday's not the finish line that you're starting to slow down. And so often I'm guilty of it is like, oh, thank God Friday's here. Like I can shut it down at 3:30, 4 o'clock. Friday is that tune-up, right? It's that, okay, momentum into the weekend. Like it's not done. Like your job in the office or out in the field or whatever it is, that may take a 2-day hiatus, but guess what? Your job at home with your family, with your loved one, that is more important, and you've got to be able to perform there, even if it's doing nothing.
Right.
But you've got to look, hey, we're going into the weekend, and I'm going to make this weekend all that it should be.
I was listening. You sent me that Jocko little snippet of the video. And
Sharpen those fangs.
Sharpen those fangs, brother. And you know what? It just you were on that line there, and I was thinking on Fridays, it's when you're sharpening them damn fangs. Because the weekends, Friday's coming, the weekend's coming. But it's okay to be sharp.
Yeah.
It's okay to have that, killer instinct in you to finish the week out strong.
That's right.
Yeah. Ben Newman, who was another guest of ours a few weeks back, he always says champions create distance on Fridays.
Yeah.
And so to your point, Tyler, TGIF, the grind includes Friday, right? Don't ease up. So again, 3 episodes a week from now on, starting this week. The Friday episode, so Sundays, just to recap, Sundays are interview episodes, Wednesdays roundtable, Friday's a quick, punchy, encouraging message that you can literally listen to in under 5 minutes to get you going into the weekend and to cap off your week. So
it's awesome. I'll say this, for the last year, I think we need to say this to all of our listeners and those of you that are watching on YouTube as well, is thank you. Thank you for embarking on this journey with us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for the support. It's been an incredible year. And like I said earlier, I've already gotten more out of the podcast than I'll ever give it, for sure. And so, we thank you, because without y'all, it wouldn't be what it is. So thank you. I would just say, encourage y'all to give us feedback, connect with us. We want to connect with you. We want to interact with you. Don't stop that. And if you haven't, please do. If you already are interacting with us, please continue.
Where can they interact with us, Tyler?
They can interact with us on Instagram. They can follow us on YouTube, and you give us the handles. But the Darren Woodson Show on Instagram, on YouTube, it's the Darren Woodson Show. Follow Darren
on the Twitter.
We have our own Twitter page. Thanks to our new producer.
The Darren Woodson Show on Twitter.
Yep. Haven't looked at it once, but it's
awesome.
Go
on iTunes, give us a review, but again, and then share. And look, this isn't hey, we want to grow this. We need to get it out to everybody. We just if you feel on your heart like this has helped you or you enjoy this, share it. Whether it's in conversation or it's, hey, shooting a little clip. Share it with friends, because, again, the more people we can connect with, the more we can fulfill our goal of just making an impact.
Yeah. I remember Darren, I don't remember what Tyler was doing, but it was a work day, so he was probably working. But I remember
it's 50-50.
So sorry, bosses, if you're hearing this. I remember sitting on your couch at your house. And it was the day that our first episode went live. Do you remember this?
No.
I remember sitting there, and the first episode goes live. It was a Monday morning or Sunday morning. Monday morning, I think it was the first one. Anyway. And just being so scared, nervous, excited. And I remember we had 100 downloads that first day. There was 100 people
downloaded
that took time to listen to what we had to say. And I just remember literally dancing in the living room thinking, there's 100 people that care what we had to say. Now, obviously, it helps that you're a famous person, Darren. But just being so excited for that first 100 downloads was just, because it was like, we did this. This is something we created. And Tyler, I think you said it best. Thank you so much, because there's people that have been with us since the beginning and are still at. And now we've grown, obviously, way past that 100. But the people that I think about that reach out, we're so grateful to you guys. We would not and cannot do this without you.
I agree, man. I agree. I mean, we are thankful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And with that would be the end of this episode. But again, like my two partners just said, keep tuning in, send us, give us some good reviews, and listen, interact with us. We need the interaction, and we want to get better. So keep sharpening us up.
Yeah. Thank you guys, and looking forward to year 2.
See you on Friday.
Woo!